Welcome to CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. I'm your host, Brandy Mabra. This is your one-stop shop to learn the business side of your practice on a deeper level. On this show, we empower you to own your CEO status to scale your practice for growth, sustainability, and profit. Listen in as we talk about how to market your practice to gain more visibility, hire, build, and engage your ride or die dream team, create streamlined operations, and make financial decisions as a CEO. It's time to show up as a confident leader to create a practice and life you love. Let's get started. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of CEO Conversations, the private practice podcast. It's Brandy, and today we are doing a solo episode. That hasn't happened in a couple of weeks, huh? So we've had some really amazing guests. I love being able to bring you guests just to give you a different insight and outlook and all of the things that guests can definitely bring. So I hope that you've enjoyed those episodes. If you have, then make sure you rate the podcast. I am trying to get as far as possible with this reach. So if you could do me a favor and go ahead and rate and review or, do all the likey things in order for us to gain more traction when it comes to the private practice podcast. So let's get started with today's episode. And I'll be honest, I am speaking from a place of authenticity. I've been there before and I've been there, in different times of different seasons, but I am speaking to you in real time. So as I am talking to you, I am actually talking to myself. I am talking to myself. And sometimes, those are messages that I say, I'm talking to myself at the time, but this is really one that is definitely resonating with me as I'm recording it. And that way, if it's resonating with you, then you're not alone. You are not alone. So today's episode is all about there is magic in the mess. Now, I'm going to tell you a story. As you guys know, I'm a mom, and I remember when I was pregnant. I want to take you way back when. I remember I was pregnant and I was getting close to being due and all the nesting things were happening. And so each day I was doing something random. Like I remember just randomly cleaning out the oven. I remember randomly just like trying to move around furniture, anything to get the house ready for my baby boy. And one day I decided to clean out the closet. Now, the closet I had at the time is probably, of every place that I've lived, it's one of my top 3 closets that I've had because it was square, it felt spacious, it just felt good to be in. But this particular day, I hated it. I did not like it. It felt messy to me. It did not feel good enough for me. And so I decided to reorganize it. So, with my big old pregnant belly, I start pulling out all the stuff and just putting it on the floor. The shoes, the clothes hanging, the shirts, just pulling it and just throwing it on the floor because I was like, this has got to change. This has got to change. And so I started to put things back and trying to reorganize. And I maybe got 30 minutes in, maybe 45. That's probably pushing it. And I just sat down on the floor and I just started crying. Just started crying. And it was it was very interesting. So my sister ends up coming over and she's like, "Why are you sitting on the floor?" She had a key because she was my go-to person for her to take me to the hospital. And she's like, why are you sitting on the floor?" And I told her I wanted to organize the closet because the closet felt messy and now I've run out of energy and I can't. It's too much. Look at all this look at all this stuff. There was just like a big old pile. All the clothes that I had pulled down and everything else too. And I was 45 minutes in. And there was I probably maybe like 2 more hours worth of work that I needed to do. Because as I was going through this process, not only was I putting things back, I was thinking like, do I want to keep this? Do I want to give it away? Do I even wear this anymore? Is this a good fit for me? Does this even represent who I am now? I'm getting ready to be a mother. I was like evolving in my identity, like all this stuff. So it wasn't just taking this shirt and folding it and putting it back on a shelf or hanging it up in the closet. There was like a whole thought process that was going on with this. So I slowly, gathered myself, from the tears. My sister helped me get up off the floor, and she's like, "You'll be fine. Just take your time. Take your time." So I went and had a bite to eat, came back, and I took my time. Now, I would love to say I organized that closet within the day, but I did not. That closet took me a few days in order to get it back to where it was. But when it was done, let me tell you, it was so pretty. It was so pretty. And I had started to enjoy the process, so I had went and got like hangers and organization bins and just took my time. The red shirts were with the red shirts, the denim was with the denim, the jeans were with the jeans, the dresses were with the dresses. Like I went all in on this closet. And I was so proud of myself because I did it. I saw it through. So I turned tears and frustration into beauty. And so, what I love about this story is because this is exactly what happens in a practice, right? And is exactly what happens as you're growing and scaling your business. It can be messy. And there's a difference from when you first start compared to when you start to get really busy and the closet starts to take on a life of its own. Just like when you start to go buy new outfits, you start putting things in the closet, you start buying shoes and bags and everything else too. And sometimes your closet can just take a life of its own. Same thing when it comes to your practice. It can take a life of its own. You've hired team members, you've bought new EHR systems, you've implemented new policy and procedures. Like all of this stuff starts to happen to the practice, and sometimes it can become very messy. And you have to reorganize it, and you have to start to pull all the stuff out. You got to pull the shirts out, you got to pull the jeans out, you got to pull the sweaters out, you got to take down the shoes. All of those things are very real when we're talking about a practice, and then you have to start to put it back. So when I'm working with my clients who are in the mess of trying to get to the next stage of business growth, trying to assess the team, trying to think about what policy and procedures do I need to implement now, trying to think what is that next hire that I need to make, trying to think what is the next strategic move that I have got to do in order to get to the level of success that I envision for myself and get to the stage of growth that I really want to be at. It is a process. So we working together are pulling out everything that's happening in the practice, shirt by shirt, jean by jean, bag by bag, shoe by shoe, to try to figure out how are we going to organize this. Where does the red shirt need to go? Where do the jeans need to go? Where do the sweaters need to go? Where do the shoes need to go? Right? And so at the end of it, it's beautiful. It's lovely, but it is a process. And so me sitting down on the floor with my pregnant belly, crying 45 minutes in is often what I see with my clients when we start to go through this process. Cries and crying, tears, frustration, overwhelm. I'm tired. This is annoying. I hate it. I don't want to do it. And part of the magic and the mess, and what I want to make sure that you understand today, is that it's all about how you look at it. It's all about your perception and your frame of reference. So, a lot of times, what we want to do, we want to rush this process. I need it to be organized. I need for it to run without me. I need for it to make a lot of money. I need for it to look the way that my colleague's closet looks, right? I need for it to look that way. I need to walk in and for it to feel so good and so amazing because I'm so tired. But it is a process. It is a process that takes time. It is a process that you have to really sit with intention of thinking, where do I want this red shirt to go? Where do I want my shoes to go? Where do I want my bags to be stored? Do I want to keep this shirt? Do I want to get rid of this shirt? But when you look at it from a frame of reference of, it is a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? When you decide to take on the mentality of the turtle instead of the hare, then that's when it's fun, right? When you actually decide, hey, I'm in this practice today. I'm going to be in this practice tomorrow. I want to be in this practice next week. I want to be in this practice next year. So, unless if you intend on selling it tomorrow, And even if you intend on selling it even 5 years from now, you still got to organize it so that way you can get the best value for it, right? You don't want to sell your practice out of desperation. That's when you get taken advantage of. And that's when everything that you've built, all the tears, all the blood, all the sweat, all of it that you've poured into it, you want to make sure that you're getting the most out of it, right? So if you want to sell your practice in the next 5 years, you start today and you have to start organizing your closet today, which means that you're probably going to be sitting down on the floor crying a couple of times, trying to figure it out. So I really want to empower you in this season, because if this is you and if you are resonating like, man, yeah, I'm cleaning out my closet. Oh yeah, I'm sitting down on the ground and I'm crying and I'm tears and I'm only 45 minutes in and I got, another 3 or 4 days to go, right? And so those days represent years. And those 45 minutes represent maybe the years that you've already been in the game, right? And things don't look the way that you want it to look. But I want you to know, if you stop rushing the process, if you find the magic in the mess, it's beautiful. So to go back to what I did, you know, over the few days, like I said, I went and got beautiful hangers. I went and got organization bins. I went and had fun with the process instead of just looking at the pile that was on the floor that felt so heavy. I decided to look at the opportunity. I decided to decide, what can I do with this pile, and how can I move in order for my closet to feel good for me and make it easier for my next life's transition and to get it ready for my baby boy, right? And so with the hangers, with the organization bins, with me being able to decide if I wanted to give shirts away to Goodwill, or if I gave it away to my family, or if I kept it because I knew, like, once I, got over being pregnant and I was going to have my snapback and all this stuff, I could wear it again. I went through that whole process and it became fun. It became fun. So you building your practice, it can be fun. It does not have to be terrible. If you decide, I'm going to make this fun, I'm going to incorporate breaks. I'm not going to rush and try to get everything done in a day. I'm going to recognize that I probably won't be able to implement this next solution that I want to implement until maybe next year. And that's okay, because there's a version of that I can implement today. We always want to rush things, and it's very easy. And I get caught up in this too. I'm growing a business. And sometimes I look at other people and I'm like, wow, how'd you get so far? What'd you do? I mean, I have all this years of business experience. I've hired so many people. I've dealt with, really large budgets. I help train like really leadership teams and do all this stuff. Like, why can I not move faster? And it's so easy to get caught up in that compared to me staying in my own closet. My closet is my closet. I don't have a celebrity size closet. Not yet. I have my closet that's in my house, and I have to work with what I got. And so when you're thinking about your practice, a lot of times what folks do is they try to make these decisions from a budget that they don't even have yet, right? And so you have to really think about, what do I need for my practice right now? What is appropriate for my stage of business growth? How can I set myself up for success? Instead of going after maybe something that you see your colleagues doing, what do you need? Maybe it's the same thing, maybe it's not. So it's, when you think about the magic and the mess, it's giving you permission to slow down, and it's giving you permission to create what you want to create. What do you want your closet to look like? What does that mean? What's your version of success? What is your version of your empire? What is your version of freedom? It's different for everybody. And it doesn't have to be the same as, the person who's sitting next to you, or the person that you might be talking to who might be a business owner. It can be different. And that's okay. That is okay. So I think when we're talking about this, there's just so many different ways that you can go with, again, what is the opportunity? What is the joy that I can find in this mess? So I think about Marie Kondo. the joy of tidying up, like her book. She created a multi-million dollar empire with books and consultants and a huge brand based on doing something that most people hate, cleaning. And she spun it where you can find joy and it can spark and you can make more money and you can get a better job if you just clean up, just tidy up and just organize. It'll change your life. And it's the same thing for your practice. If you slow down, if you find the joy in the process, if you focus on the opportunity, if you focus on what is working, if you focus on what you've already accomplished, if you focus on what you're grateful for, it makes it so much easier. At the end of the day, I was grateful. I had a beautiful closet that I was trying to get reorganized for a baby, and so instead of focusing on the big pile that was on the floor of the work that was left to do, I focused on, hey, all my shirts are already hung up. I just have my jeans that I need to hang up. All the shoes are put away. So really stepping into what lights you up for your particular stage of business growth and not focusing on what you don't have. So when we think about like these celebrity closets, they have like all these shelves and there's vanities and marble and beautiful wood and all of this stuff. Their closets are just out of a magazine. And maybe your closet, you don't get to have a vanity, but you might be able to have a really great mirror, a mirror that brings you joy, a mirror that you can hang up, a mirror that you can look in and make sure your outfit looks good. And you're working towards your vanity. You're working towards the marble that's going to be in your closet. You're working to having all the shelves, but you have to keep going. So I hope that this is resonating with you. I hope it's resonating with you because at different stage of business growth, at different areas of just when it comes to the practice, this is going to resonate with different people in different ways. It might resonate with you when you think about your team. It might resonate with you when you think about operations or like implementing different policy and procedures, processes, and systems. It might resonate with you when it comes to you personally. So, the best thing that you can do is to set yourself up for success. So, as I'm talking about this analogy, I am going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you 3 tips for homework because I really want you to give yourself grace in seasons where things feel so heavy, in seasons where things feel like just mess. They call it the messy middle for a reason because you're in the middle. You're in the middle of something great. And one of the things that you can be grateful for is you've gotten to this place. So I always talk about with the business owners that I work with. I mean, I work with 7-figure, multi-million dollar, scaling to 8-figure practice owners. Part of the reason why they're in the situations that they are in is because what they created worked. God gave them what they prayed for. And now we're in a place of trying to reorganize it so they can get to the next stage of growth that they're praying for. And guess what happens when you get to that next stage of business growth? As long as your practice is growing and scaling, there's going to be the next mess. So, if you're in this season, get used to it. Get used to it. This is not all about perfection. This is about finding the perfection in the imperfection and enjoying the process. So there was an email that I sent out talking about this, enjoy the process. There's an email that I sent out today talking about be patient. This is a patient process. It takes time. And regardless of what we see on social media, regardless of what you think, having a practice that can run without you can take years. It is a process between trying to hire leadership, trying to hire the right team members, getting very clear on what you want right now, the vision and the mission of the practice. This is not a microwave story. Is it possible? Absolutely. I see it every day. I've experienced it for myself. Does it take time? Yes. I remember there was a practice that was post acquisition, and I had to bring 2 groups together with different cultures, different systems, different EHRs, like everything was different. I had to bring them together. And I remember going through that process, and it was 2 years. It was 2 years before I even got the right team in place. It was 2 years before I even got to a level of efficiency. 2 years. But once I got there, I was like, "Oh, this is great." And then I knew the recipe, right? And so a lot of the work that you're doing right now, you're finding the recipe. You're finding the organization that you need to have in order to set yourself up for success. So you have to be patient with it. You're going to mess up. It's okay. It is okay. You will live. You will live to mess up another day. And that is all right because there's lessons that you're learning in this whole process. Maybe you don't like where that red shirt is going to go. Maybe you want to put the jeans on the bottom level instead of the top level. Maybe you want to fold them, put them on a shelf. Maybe you want to put your shoes, leave them in the box. Maybe you don't want them out on display. This is your world. This is your oyster. You don't have to create something that you don't want to. That's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship. So let's talk about some tips. Tip number 1, if this is resonating with you, be patient. I've said that about 5 times already. You have to be patient with the process. You can't rush greatness. You can't. You want to be the turtle, not the hare. And make sure that in this process of you being patient, you give yourself breaks. When I sat down, when I was cleaning out the closet, when my sister helped me get up and I went and ate lunch, it was beautiful because I came back to the closet, didn't feel so heavy. I needed to eat. I needed to take care of myself. There was a lot that was happening mentally. Sometimes you just need to take the vacation. Sometimes you just need to take the break. Sometimes you just have to get out of people's way and allow for people to do what they're meant to do. So, if you are in this process, give yourself grace, give yourself time, give yourself the break that you need. Take the day off, take the week off. Right now, one of my clients is taking a whole month off. Do what you need to do in order to continue, to keep going. Because remember, unless if you're selling the practice, that practice is going to be here next week. That practice is going to be here next month. And even if you want to sell it and you want to sell it to the best it can be, that practice is going to be here for the next few years. So you have to make sure that you're paying attention to how are you treating yourself. Be patient with the process. If you rush the process, you're going to rush yourself into the ground. And you don't deserve that. Tip number 2, ask yourself, what makes sense for your stage of business growth? It amazes me. People who are in, like the multi six, even the early sevens will implement things that really multi-million dollar practices have, and they struggle with it. They sit down to do payroll and it hurts. You don't necessarily need all these big top heavy positions when you are just getting to 7 figures. You need like a sliver of leadership. And when I say sliver, I mean you got good people who have leadership potential, who can step in and take things off of your plate and can start to be a filter for you. But it is amazing to me. They will go and be like, "Oh, I have a COO." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, you must have a $10 million practice." No. So pace yourself, please. Pace yourself, get to know your numbers. Work with your accountant before you hire. What is your budget? You want to make sure that you are getting very clear on, what do I need in my closet? I want a vanity. I want marble, but that's not me today. Maybe I'm doing a really good DIY project and doing faux marble right now because I want the look. What do you need for your practice? Not what your colleagues got, not what you think in the practice is happening next door, not the practice that you see on social media, not the practice that you think that you need right now in order for it to sound good. It's very interesting. People will say like, "Oh, I have 15 providers, 20 providers, and most of them are not full." Sounds good. Does your practice sound good on paper? If it sounds good on paper, but it doesn't feel good in real life, you got some work you got to do. So, what makes sense for your stage of business growth right now? Do you have a vanity when maybe you just need a good, nice, lovely, luxury mirror hanging on the wall to help you get dressed? Tip number 3, regardless of where you're at, keep taking action. Keep taking action. Take your breaks. Be patient. Give yourself what you need. Stop. Drink a glass of water. Stop. Smell the roses. Stop. Take the vacation. Stop. Give yourself a retreat. But keep taking action. As long as you keep taking action, guess what's going to happen with that pile on the floor? That pile is going to disappear. You're going to make an impact. You're going to give away clothes that people need. That was me. I was giving away clothes to people that needed it. And that felt good. But I was doing it from a place of having my cup filled because instead of trying to rush this whole closet process in a day, I took days. I gave myself time. I enjoyed it. I went shopping. I got coffee. Made it fun. So, what do you need to make it fun as you're taking action? But don't stop. Take a break, but don't stop. A lot of times it's easy. You think, like, oh, if I stop, man, I'll feel better. No, you won't. No, you won't. You'll stop and you'll be in a place of resentment and regret. And if you sell it and you didn't sell it from a place of empowerment and you sold it because, out of desperation, that's not going to feel good. That is not going to feel good. There was an owner I was reading up on, and she sold her company for it was a multi million deal, and she bought it back. Isn't that interesting? A lot of times when you're sitting in a space where you just think like, oh, this has to be the solution, this has to be what I need, and you're doing it from a place of desperation or a place of lack of clarity or a place of I don't know what else to do, you can regret it. So she bought it back and now she's reorganizing it because she was able to stop and think, maybe I should have just hired a better leader. Maybe I should have hired a different type of team. Maybe I should have, she implemented what she got the clarity on that she needed before she sold it. So it's like a do-over. But you don't want to have to go and sell your company and then buy it back. I mean, that's like the equivalent of selling a house that there's a movie, Follow the Bride. It's the second one, and he sold the house, then he wanted to go buy it back, and so really, really thinking, what do I need in this season? A lot of times it's not to stop. It's just you need to keep taking action, but you need to take the action in a different type of way, a way that fills you up. So it's about harmony, 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 harmony. There's not necessarily ever a balance, but harmony. What feels good? What is your definition of freedom? What is your definition of success? What is your definition of your empire? For me, sometimes I'm working on days, maybe I don't necessarily want to work, but I'll put myself in a nice coffee shop. That feels good to me. I'll, make sure I'm set up. I'll light my candle. I'll make sure environmentally I'm good in order to make sure that the work that I'm doing feels good on the days where things feel tough. And then there's sometimes where I just give myself the time. Last week, I'll share a story of some of the things that I'm going through right now in my business. Last week, one of my team members who has been with me for 4 years, put in her notice. And I had to grieve that a bit. I had to give myself time. I had to give myself the grace that I tell my clients to take all the time, like to give yourself the ability just to digest things, right? And so to allow for me to get the clarity that I needed and to feel the emotions that I needed to feel, because it's a big position that I have to fill now. 4 years. I'm blessed. Most people don't stay in companies for 4 years. She definitely has left the company better than the way that she found it. So I feel blessed for that. And so as I'm sorting through things, as I'm putting back my shirts, as I'm putting back my jeans, I'm assessing and moving with intention and giving myself time and the space that I need in order to make the decision for what is next for the company. You have to do the same thing. People will come and people will go, and people always have a season, right? And that's both in business and in life. So as you're going through this process, enjoy it. Enjoy the process. Be patient with the process and know that there is something bigger happening for you and that God has you and He is not going to leave you and He is going to make sure that you are good. You just have to take your time. So, I hope that this is helpful for you. I hope it makes sense. I hope I didn't go a little bit too off of the edge with the closet analogy. But right now, like I said, it is the number one analogy that I use with all my clients. It is the number one analogy that I am feeding myself and trying to make sure that as I am navigating through things, that I'm recognizing there's a process to this. There's a process to this. And all you can do is put one shirt back at a time, put one pair of jeans back at a time, put one pair of shoes back at a time. Yeah, so just enjoy it. Enjoy it. And then, of course, if you need more help or support, or if you are tired of being alone in your practice and with all the business side and the leadership side and just need a good group of people to be around, definitely apply for Private Practice CEO because we are taking applications now and it is amazing. We just got back from a lovely retreat in Washington, D.C., and we are getting ready for our next retreat, which is happening in New York. And then I am planning for the following retreat, which is happening in LA. And so it is a combination of in real life scenarios where you get to actually meet everybody. And then also we get together every week to talk about business and leadership. And there's amazing curriculum that you get to learn from. So you are not struggling with trying to learn how to be a CEO of your practice and figuring out the business side of your practice by yourself. You get to do it with an amazing group of people doing amazing things. Amazing, amazing, amazing things. So if this sounds like a good fit for you, definitely go ahead and see the link in the show notes and apply today because I would love to work with you. All right, enjoy. I will see you guys next time. Bye. Thanks for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the episode and it empowers you as the CEO of your practice. If you enjoyed the podcast, please make sure you subscribe, share the message, and leave a review. If you want more information and support in growing and scaling your practice, click the link in the show notes to take advantage of our free resources or apply to work with me directly. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.